Hey, it's Kat. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. We are doing a little bit of a different video today. I don't normally do gaming news coverage or anything like that, but a lot of you are curious about my thoughts on the new Nintendo Switch OLED model. So that is what we have on this screen right now. And thank you to everyone that did ask. This is just going to be a sort of chill, impromptu video, chatting with you guys and letting you know my thoughts on this new Switch, who I think it's for, and some of the differences between the base model, we'll just call it, and this upcoming one that is set to release on October 8th. Before we get started, I do just want to quickly mention that my giveaway for 3 $25 Nintendo eShop codes is still going, and all you have to do to enter is download and play Disney Emoji Blitz using my link down below. Get to level 10, screenshot your progress, and tag me on Instagram or Twitter. All the details mentioned will be in the description box, so just be sure to check that out, and good luck to everyone entering. Now, going back to this Nintendo Switch OLED model, I did go ahead and pre-order this white version that you can see on the screen right here. I think it looks beautiful. The white dock is so sleek, and I'm really excited to, finally get my hands on it. Just a few more months to go. The price that you are seeing here at $449 is the Canadian price, so this is Nintendo of Canada, and in the US it's $349, making it $50 more than the base model of the Nintendo Switch. The main changes for that extra $50 is, of course, the OLED screen, as the name suggests, but besides that, there are a couple other new additions to this model than the previous one that is available. I'm not entirely sure at this point. Nintendo hasn't talked about whether they're going to get rid of the original Switch model after this releases, but I do think that they will start phasing it out just based off of all their previous releases. Once there is a bigger and better version, they do start to get rid of the previous one. Now, I am no gaming expert, hence why I don't typically do these gaming news and kind of going over the technical details, but I guess I can provide the perspective of a consumer, but also a Nintendo fan who has been collecting almost every single console that they've come out with the exception of the Wii U. So looking at it right here, the main differences, of course, as the name suggests, would be the OLED screen, and it is a little bit bigger as well by 0.8 inches. It's a 7-inch screen versus the 6.2 inches of the previous Nintendo Switch, and the OLED is just, again, without knowing so much about the technical details, I just know that it is a better screen that provides a more vibrant and accurate color representation. I own the OLED PS Vita, and I have an OLED TV as well. The concern that people have about the OLED screen is that it might cause screen burn, but in my experience, I haven't had this issue before. I think that if you take care of your electronics in general, this shouldn't happen, and screen burn typically only occurs when you leave a static image on the screen for a very long time. But if you're using the Switch as intended, which is, to game or maybe consume media, if you watch YouTube or anything on it, then that image on the screen will constantly be moving, and I just don't personally see that to be an issue. Another difference on this new model is the addition of the LAN port directly on the dock. So the dock does look a little bit different, but it still supports the original Switch. So if you use your Switch for multiplayer online a lot, then this might be helpful for you. Something that doesn't make a huge difference for me because I play mostly on handheld when I play the Nintendo Switch, and I only really dock it when I have to record gameplay. So there's the lovely trailer that we saw when they first announced this new Nintendo Switch. On the Switch itself, they also changed the kickstand. So we used to have the little kickstand that is quite flimsy on the original Switch, and now it is the entire 1/3 of the back of the Switch, as you can see here. For anyone that might have or have seen a Microsoft Surface, it's very similar to the built-in kickstand that they have, and I can imagine that it'll be much more sturdy compared to the little kickstand that we have in the past. Here it shows that there are different viewing angles that you can choose from, and there's that wired LAN port that I mentioned, and on top of that you get 64 gigabytes of internal storage, double of the the 32, which we originally had. It looks like it also has enhanced audio, and I remember this being mentioned briefly, but I didn't pay too much attention about it, to be honest. But it looks like the speakers were moved a little bit higher, so I'm really curious to find out how much of a difference it would actually make. As someone who does play mostly on handheld, I think the upgrades on the Switch with the bigger screen and the better quality of the OLED as well as the onboard speakers, this is something that's really great for people who play handheld a lot like myself. 3 modes in one, which, you know, we know about this. And the Joy-Con, which does appear to be the same exact Joy-Con that we have, and probably will still have the drift issues that unfortunately a lot of people have experienced. Very thankfully, I own many pairs of Joy-Con. I have a few of the original Nintendo colors, but I also love customizing my Joy-Con with different shell swaps. So between, you know, a good handful of pairs, I luckily haven't experienced Joy-Con Drift myself. My sister had Joy-Con Drift, which I very easily was able to fix by getting a thumbstick replacement off Amazon. I know Nintendo offers free repairs on it, but being in Canada and all, it's a little bit of a hassle trying to get that done, but I think it's a bit better in the US. Don't take my word for it though. I am not from the US, obviously. But if you have the option of the free repairs, then that might be more convenient for some of you instead of doing the thumbstick replacement yourself. Since I work on Joy-Con all the time because of the shell swaps, then it's a very simple process for me. There seems to have been a recent discovery too of fixing the Joy-Con drift just by placing a piece of cardboard underneath the thumbsticks. I really need to try this one day. Otherwise, it is going to be the same Joy-Con, just with the new white color. It will be available in the new white version, and of course very, you know, iconic at this point Nintendo Switch neon blue and red. Pretty much it looks to me very identical to the current Switch that we already have, but just obviously in white. And I think aesthetic wise, the main difference is with the dock having the more, let's see if we can find a larger photo. Here we go. The dock is a bit different with the smaller logo, and then it's more sort of rounded out. It looks very sleek and modern, and I think it'll look so good on my TV console. Really quickly, again, just comparing the main differences from the original Switch is ever so slightly heavier. If I'm going to be honest, the Switch that I have right now already can start to get heavy when I'm playing on handheld for a while, plus when it's in a grip that I'm using. I have small hands, so that might be why it causes a bit more discomfort for me, because I know it's not an issue for everybody, but this is the reason why I do enjoy playing on the Lite for a very long time, because it is designed for, you know, obviously handheld play since you can't dock. With that said, it is also going to be 0.5 of an inch longer, and I looked it up. That is about 2.5 millimeters thicker. It sounds very minuscule, but if you're using cases or grips with all the precise cutouts, especially with a new location of the speaker and the kickstand and things like that, you might need to be upgrading your accessories as well. I think that cases generally, not the grips that go on it, but the cases that hold your Switch, I think that it'll still work, since at least the cases that I use do fit my Switches with a grip, so I think that it'll carry the Switch with no problem. The battery life appears to be the exact same as the version 2 Nintendo Switch, which is 4.5 to 9 hours depending on what you play. On their website, it is still showing all 3 of the systems, so again, I'm very curious to see how long they're going to keep the original Switch, or if they intend to keep it for a while as an option for people who might not care so much about that LAN port and the larger screen. So I guess to wrap this up, who do I think this new Nintendo Switch OLED model is for? In general, if you already own a full-size Nintendo Switch right now, I don't think that you necessarily have to upgrade. Obviously, you know, do with it as you please. It's completely up to you, but I don't think it's a needed upgrade. If you're someone who plays with your Switch primarily on dock mode, then you're not even going to really see the new screen and take advantage of the new speakers. And as for the LAN port, maybe you already have a USB to LAN dongle on there, you know, since that has been around pretty much since the first Nintendo Switch released. And with a memory, I mean, it's really nice to have double the memory because it is helpful, especially if we're starting to lean more toward the digital age of owning games. I think almost everyone purchases a new SD card as soon as they buy a system anyway. I know I definitely do, because I know that 32 or even 64 wouldn't be enough for me. So with any handheld that I've ever owned, I always go right out and buy a new SD card. So the internal memory, nice to have, but if you already have a Switch, chances are you already have an SD card. I think this model might be a nice upgrade if you like playing on handheld mode a lot like I do, because you'll really be able to take advantage of that screen upgrade, unlike if it were docked all the time. But is it a necessary upgrade? That's where I'm sort of on the fence about. I pre-ordered the OLED model because I do play on handheld a lot and I really want to experience the new screen mostly, but also because I just enjoy collecting Nintendo handhelds and consoles. As you might be able to, I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. My chair is blocking it, but my shelf behind me is filled with Nintendo handhelds. That is my main reason why I want to own this OLED model, but that is the main word, is it? It's a want, not necessarily a need. And I adore my Animal Crossing Switch edition. I really don't want to get rid of my dock as well. So I'm kind of in this weird dilemma because I love the new OLED dock, but I also love my Animal Crossing one. But I realize that I don't need two Switches. So we'll see where that dilemma ends up, I guess, in October once we receive our new Switch. If we even receive our new Switch, because I don't know if the pre-orders will be handled very smoothly this time around. I think this OLED model is nice if you are upgrading from a Switch Lite, or if you are buying your very first Switch, then this could be for you. But again, not a necessary upgrade in my opinion, just being honest, you know, even though I love Nintendo and all of that. It's certainly not the Switch Pro that a lot of people were hoping for, but I'm not so surprised about it, and here's why. I mentioned that I'm a fan of Nintendo handhelds and I've collected the previous models, and just going off of Nintendo's history, the Switch is about 4 years old, I think, at this point, and it is selling like crazy still, especially, you know, through the past year that we've had with the pandemic. Nintendo is known to release the same console with just a few tweaks. With the Nintendo DS line, we got the DS Lite, the DSi, DSi XL, and with the 3DS, we got the 3DS XL and the new 3DS and the 2DS and the new 2DS, you know? But all of them are pretty much the Nintendo 3DS or the Nintendo DS line, and I think this is what is happening here. We got the version 2 release with the very minor changes, and we are now getting the OLED model with a little more changes, but it's not quite the next gen of Nintendo Switch, and I don't think that they'll be doing that for a few more years. I think that, respectfully, people I know are very excited about seeing the next gen of Nintendo console. It doesn't help to fuel the rumors and the speculations when it's not confirmed by Nintendo themselves, because I think a lot of people bought into the Switch Pro rumors without any evidence or confirmation from Nintendo, and a lot ended up being disappointed, even though, you know, there was never a promise for a Switch Pro. I didn't expect for one to come out at all. So having no expectations about this release, it was a nice surprise for me. It was along the lines of what I anticipated for that mid-console life upgrade, or I don't know what to call it, but I hope that answered a lot of the questions that you had for me. Again, thank you for everyone who did ask and were curious about what I thought on the OLED model, and now I'd love to hear from you. Let me know below what you think about the new OLED model Nintendo Switch. Did you pre-order one? Are you going to pre-order one? Are you excited about it? Are you going to hold off on it? If I didn't get the white one, I would have definitely held off for a nice limited edition color. I think it would be so amazing if they came out with a beautiful golden Switch for Breath of the Wild 2 or some kind of limited edition, because I'm a sucker for that. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.